one of their mobile kitchens, and they actually
is that even some what I call habitual
beautiful Stop and Shop in the Wilton penalty, but it was actually a tax, and that it. Absolutely. What's the name of the show? Good evening and welcome again to the Marty Heiser Show. We have an incredible opportunity tonight. You know, when I think of growing up, I think of Don Kirshner's rock concert. I think of stumbling home Friday and Saturday night, turning on late night television and seeing groups like Deep Purple, Kansas, The Styx, blaring rock and roll. And you know, I grew up and I said, where is all the good music? What has happened to this next generation? I mean, I don't know. All these musicians, they just don't do it for me. Britney Spears and these other ones don't do it. Thank goodness there's a group called Discord, and this is Ridgefield's own, that is bringing back the rock and roll that I grew up on. And they're here tonight. You're going to meet these young men. You're going to find out what motivated them to put together this group. They're going to be playing, by the way, at the Ridgefield Playhouse this Sunday night. That's May 15th, and it's called Band Jam, and these guys are certainly going to jam. But enough about that. They're going to open up with a song I think you'll remember from your adolescence, and then we'll get to interview some of these guys. So, take it away.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 14. Just give me what I want and know what I'm gonna get. Hello, hello, hola, at a place called Vertigo. ¿Dónde estás? Lights go down and on Joe, give me something I can feel your love to you. Shut me out. Your love is teaching me how to
get this handheld mic. All right, your name is Nico, right?
Yes.
Okay, for our vast viewing audience, Nico, what got you into this band? What was the thinking behind it? What motivated you? And let's get right down to brass tacks. Is this a good way to meet girls?
Well, as for what motivated me to start the band, well, I read a book, actually. It was a book called Road Rash. I found it at the Ridgefield Library. The cover was a guy in the middle of nowhere on a road with a pair of drumsticks, a hi-hat, and a snare drum. I found it fairly intriguing, so I picked it up. I read it about 3 or 4 times. And by the end of a week, I wanted to start a band. So I brought some of my friends in who
Yeah, can you introduce all the leaders and
Yeah,
tell
sure.
me what's their best strength as far as musical talent, what they bring to the band, and what you like best about them.
All right, this here's Maximus. He's our lead guitarist and a great person.
I'm feeling the love. I felt the love there. Yeah.
That's Pablo. He's our leather jacket wearing, absolutely awesome lead singer, who is probably one of the. He's changed, I think, a lot since.
Has
we
he
started
come
the
out of
band.
his shell? Really? Is that what
Oh,
you
yeah.
noticed?
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
it's like
Totally.
it's like the inchworm turning into the butterfly, and he's really found himself. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, a bit.
Okay.
He's definitely gotten over stage fright.
That's good. That's good.
Our bassist over there is Ryan Sierkowski. Now, he had actually never picked up an electric bass in his life before the band, and he was a very good upright bass player. And I was like, hey, do you think you can play a guitar, but it's got the same strings?
And I was like, sure. Yeah.
Our drummer, Cooper Rivera, well, no one really knows why he's here, but I wish we could have brought him a little more up.
All right, well, let's have a word with Cooper. All right, Cooper, is it true what they say about drummers? You're the heart and soul of this band. Is that what it is?
That is perfectly it, yes.
Okay, do you want these guys to get out of the way so you can get your close-up? This is your moment of fame.
Yes, please.
So, Cooper, what got you interested in this band? And by the way, all you guys, I mean, from the looks of you, you're like high school juniors or seniors ready to go to college. You guys are actually in 8th grade. Is that true?
Yep.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, there's my cell phone. Someone needs to turn that off.
Yeah.
This is local cable access television, Cooper. This is going to go in the vault when you guys are big stars, you know, filling out stadiums, and you're going to go, hey, this is where it all started.
Cool.
So what was your motivation in getting in the band, and what do you like most about it?
Okay, so my motivation first was I heard that Nico was going to start a band, and I'm like, oh, I want to play the first instrument that comes to mind. So I thought bass guitar, and Ryan already took that spot. And
I hate that. He's Slash, right? Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy a bass guitar, and I'm going to try that. And never worked out. So I went to their first practice, and they had somebody else playing drums. And I'm like, you know what? Let me get in here to see if I
Who
can
did we
play.
have playing drums?
It was
We had
one of our
someone
friends.
called Yash.
Yash.
Oh, yeah!
And, so-
Yash is out. See, there's already intrigue in the band. This is like Van Halen and you know stuff like that.
So-
David Lee Roth and the other guy. I forget
Yeah.
the blonde guy. Anyways,
So, and then I started playing drums, and they started looking at me. They're like, where'd you learn to play drums? I'm like, I don't know. I picked up these sticks, and I felt they were for me.
so it's really a gift from God, basically.
Yeah, it is. So,
Now,
And necessity.
last question before we go to the next set. When you brought the drum set home and you were setting it up, can you just make the facial expression of your parents?
they were like just, oh my God, he's gonna play this like every day. And they had their faces in their palms. They're just, God. So
All right, well, you guys got 2 more songs. We signed you to a contract. What's the next song?
the next song will be "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple.
A classic. Okay, take it away. Oh, sorry, let me do this here. My bad. Help me out with the chord. Okay, you're all set.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. better place to swear. No matter what, we'll get out of this. I know we'll never forget. Smoke on the water. Smoke on the water.
Now that was good. That brought back memories. Okay, we're gonna put this back together now. That was a great song. All right, so Pablo, you are the lead singer. Hold on, let me get this chord. Here we go. All right, so now, honestly, is there jealousy in the band because you're the lead singer?
No, but I'd like to think so.
You like to think so? Yeah, there probably should be. So was that a vote? Can we get the rest of it? Was this a vote to make Pablo the lead singer, or was it he just couldn't play another instrument? Is that what happened?
That was me hitting puberty and having my voice crack so badly I couldn't sing at all.
Really? Now that is that what happened? Okay, well I can
And then
see
we
it.
figured out that he was just better than me anyway.
Wow, there you go. But you do rock the jacket. Does anyone else have a leather jacket like this jacket? Oh, you do? Yeah. Okay, so there could be another lead singer, but the drummer's never the lead singer, don't you agree?
No.
All right, so what was your thinking behind, you kind of came a little bit later to this band. Did they send you a written invitation? Did you meet in the hallway and say, hey, we need a singer, you have a leather jacket, we want you to lead the band? How did it all come about?
Well, for me, it was more like I came to lunch and I heard about them in the band. I'm like, I kind of want to be in one of those. So I kind of thought it over for 3 days. And finally decided to muster up enough courage to come up to Nico and ask him, can I be in the band? He said, sure, but we kind of already have everything covered. So I said, I can sing. So he said, okay. And he was a little bit uneasy about it.
Well, I mean, that was because I was singing, man.
Because you were the singer. But you got that whole puberty thing going on, so that I can see how that would...
And now I can't sing.
Yeah, okay. So that's how you got on the band?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Now, what are your aspirations for this band? Do you guys want to go nationwide with this? You want to get signed? You want to cut an album? Or is this just kind of a rock and roll band for now?
That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool.
All right, here, let's talk to this is Ryan. What's your hopes for this band?
I hope that we can, at some point, make a record, which would be pretty cool.
That's interesting, though. The record business right now, everything is digital. Everything's downloaded. It's not what it used to be. Is that what you've heard?
Yes.
But then you have a lot more outlets for it, like cable access television. This can go on YouTube, and if you get hot, who knows? You could get discovered.
Yeah. This is one of the first steps. I think if we record a couple of songs and put them on iTunes or something, that'll get us out a little bit more, and just see where it goes from there.
Well, listen, I know I've been bothering your dad to get you guys to come on the show, and I really do appreciate it because I just think you're good. I mean, I've watched you on YouTube. I heard you were playing on Main Street, I think, in Ridgefield, right?
Yeah.
I was there. I was like right in the front. I was like, throwing my jacket around. No, it was really good, really good. Okay, your final song is going to be?
American Idiot by Green Day.
Green Day. All right, let's hear it.
This isn't as much of a throwback song as we've been playing, but we're eighth graders. We deserve to play some punk.
All right, Green Day.
Release the energy.
I wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation under the new me. Can you hear the sounds of hysteria? What's up with I don't mind rock America?
This is your last song, okay?
Across the alien nation. Okay. God, you love dreams of tomorrow. We're not the ones who let them follow. For nothing else to love, yeah. invention. But across the alien nation, everything is meant to be okay. Television dreams of tomorrow. We're not the ones you're meant to follow. Lord, that's enough to argue. Don't wanna be an American idiot. One nation controlled by the media. Information age of hysteria. It's calling out to idiot America. Welcome to a new kind of invention. Across the alien nation, everything is meant to be okay. Television dreams of tomorrow. We're not the ones we're meant to follow. For that's enough to argue.
All right. The band is called Discord. They're going to be at the Ridgefield Playhouse this Sunday night at, what is it called? Band Jam?
Band Jam.
Band Jam, and I think these guys should win. They're in 8th grade. It's part of Ridgefield, Connecticut. I'm proud to have them on the show. And can you do one more rendition of Deep Purple on the way out? Just one more? Okay, play it.
Well, Volume's gonna do that.
Make records with a mobile. We didn't have much time. Break Zappa as the mothers. We're at the best place around. So stupid with a flare gun. Burn the place to the ground. Smoke on the water. Fire in the sky.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really
so much for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Hey, really good job. Good luck on Sunday. You guys are good. And only in 8th grade. Discord. Make sure you get out there on Sunday night to the, what's it called again?
Band Jam.
Band Jam, Sunday night at Ridgefield Playhouse. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And don't keep your parents awake all night with the drums. All right, good night. Okay. Well, you get a little bit of everything here on the Marty Heiser Show, that's for sure. We're going to be transitioning here to a very interesting author by the name of Joseph Berger. You know, and it's interesting because in the greater New York area, you have such an incredible patchwork of different societies, different religions, different histories. Joseph Berger's family was originally from Russia, and they migrated to Poland and were caught up during World War II in, of course, the onslaught of the Nazis invading Poland. And you had the Nazis invading from the west, and of course Hitler had a non-aggression pact with Stalin, and they said, hey, if you attack from the west, we'll attack from the east. And Joseph Bergen's parents were caught quite literally in the crossfire. And it's a fascinating book that he wrote called Displaced Persons, Growing Up in America After the Holocaust. And it's pretty exciting to have this author. He also writes for, is it on speaker? He also writes for the New York Times, and he has various teaching venues that he works. He's also written a book called The World in a City, The Traveling Globe Through the Neighborhoods of New York. And we're joined now by Joseph Berger. Joseph, are you there?
I am. How are you, Marty? And thank you for having me on your show.
Listen, I was listening to your book literally all afternoon. I remember talking to you yesterday, but I downloaded it. I hope you get some of that money. It was $22. So do you get a piece of that? How does that work?
I probably get about $1 or $2
Okay. Well, check your mailbox for the check because it's definitely coming.
I'm waiting.
And that, you know, the royalty check. But I was absolutely enchanted by your story because it really, when you say surviving the Holocaust, it wasn't so much that you were in the Holocaust, in the cauldron of concentration camps, although you were in displaced persons camps at a very young age. But why don't you pick it up there in the book and talk about you, your brother, your hardworking parents, and what it was like to transition to the new world.
Right. Well, I didn't want to write a book about the Holocaust, the war itself, because, you know, as you said, I wasn't in it. I was born in 1945. The war was still on, but I was an infant when it ended. But what I thought when I wrote this book, and what gave me the desire to write this book, was the idea that very little had been written about the survivors, people like my parents and their friends, who had survived the war and had to rebuild their lives as refugees, as penniless refugees, not speaking English, in a new country, and very different than other immigrants, because, you know, most immigrants come here for the great economic opportunity.
Right.
My parents came here because they had no place to go back to. Their homes, their villages, all of that had been destroyed by the war. And so they came here with you know, at the mercy of what they might find in this country, and they were very fortunate because they found stability. They found a chance to make a living. They found a place to educate their children, and my book is about how they rebuilt their lives here, despite all the suffering they went through and all the losses they suffered. And my parents lost almost their entire families, and they came from large families. So and their story was very typical of many of the survivors. You know, when they came here, they were of a certain age, because few of the very young or the old survived the concentration camps or could withstand the rigors of hiding or flight. And so, you know, they came here and they began, you know, knitting together as a community. and they took jobs where they didn't have to learn English, didn't require English. They lived in neighborhoods where they could be near other people who spoke their language, Yiddish, let's say, in most cases, and they learned the ropes. They learned the ropes. One of the stories am I going to?
No, please go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah. One of the stories I tell in my book is about how in the second grade I was asked to play George Washington in a story about Washington chopping down the cherry tree and then telling his father, "It was me, father. I cannot tell a lie." Probably an apocryphal story, but in any case, that was the typical George Washington story you learned in elementary school.
Right.
So I was going to play George Washington in the play. I came home very excited. I told my mother, "Mom, guess what? I'm going to be in a play. I'm going to play George Washington." She says to me, "Who's George Washington?" I said, he was a general. I guess that was more important to me than his being a president. So I was in the second grade after all. And so I told her I needed a costume. She says, "What do they want from me? How am I going to get you a costume?" I said, "Well, he was a general, Ma." So she took me to a used clothing store a couple of blocks away. We were living at 102nd Street and Columbus Avenue at that time in Manhattan. And she found a GI uniform that obviously some GIs had given up, who had been in the war. And because she was a good seamstress, she cut it down to my size, and I played George Washington chopping down the cherry tree in a GI uniform.
Yeah, and didn't you?
I tell the story because, not because I want to embarrass my mother, but to point out how hard those refugees worked to make sure their children, had the same lives as other children their age.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one thing. I was listening to this at an Audible book as I'm driving around. The one thing that's sort of a recurring theme, and by the way, I really appreciate your writing. You open the book by talking about how you're eating a seeded roll on the way to a potentially contentious meeting at the New York Times, where you were a writer. You're a celebrated author as well. And you talked about how that brought you back to your childhood and your parents' childhood. And I found myself getting hungry as I was listening to the story, because as you went later in the book and you interviewed your mother about her experiences in Poland, literally right in the first wave of the Blitzkrieg coming through from the east when the Nazis invaded Poland, and how she had to flee, and she was all alone in the city. I believe it was Warsaw at age 14, and she was fleeing with this older guy, and he saw a horse go down, and he said, "Well, we should cut the horse flesh now because it's fresh and it won't be rancid and we can eat it." And your mother, I mean, can you imagine processing this at that young an age? And it just went on from there. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, and even they survived. I do have quite a few stories of my parents' survival during the war.
Yeah, you weave it. I mean, you got to keep it, because at one point you're in the Upper East Side trying to get baseball cards and getting coins out of sewers and trying to make your way in the new world. And then at the next chapter, you're back with your mother, who's moving east into the open embrace of the promises of socialism, and yet being somewhat disappointed with that. It's a fascinating book that way.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. When you're talking before about my mother in Warsaw, it was interesting. She had a brother who was a kind of a socialist idealist.
Yeah.
And he told her, let's.
Joseph, I don't want to get political or anything, but there's a lot of that going around lately. But let's just leave it there. Let's focus on the book. Yeah, funny how that works.
And as a result, I grew up with parents who were, unlike many of the kids who I went to at Bronx Science, were very strong anti-communists. On the contrary.
Yeah.
So they were, because they had experienced actual communism and realized what a
Well,
fraud it
you
was.
you experience totalitarian government. You don't just hear it from some sociology professor at a very expensive college somewhere, but you actually live it. And funny how that works out. You're not such a fan.
Right, but what I want to tell you was, while she and this brother were in Warsaw, just as the Nazis were bombing, September 1939 were bombing Warsaw at the start of the war, it was her theory that they could survive rather than going into shelters where the buildings they were in might collapse.
Yeah.
Just walk around and
Yeah.
the bombs fall around them.
Yeah, this was the same brilliant guy that says, cut up the horse when he goes down first because you're going to be hungry. It was that guy, right?
Well, they found a sack of prunes, as she describes it, and that kept them alive during those 30 days.
Yeah.
It was abandoned in the market.
No, but that idea is, I found that interesting. His idea was bomb shelters are for suckers. What you really want to do is run around in the streets, because what's the likelihood of a bomb hitting you there? I don't know if that really bears true, but your mother survived the war, so she's got that going for her.
Well, I think she had a lot of luck, but she also had a lot of grit and a lot of courage. She even tells us a wonderful story about how when she was in Russia, she, in order to survive against famine, you had to buy food on the black market. That was how you did it. Otherwise, you would starve.
Right.
So she managed to secure a loaf of bread, and for some reason she was caught by one of the policemen. So he brought her, one of the police commanders. So he brought her into his office. And she said, you could do whatever you want, but I'm not giving you my bread. And they started doing a literal tug of war over this loaf of bread. Finally, he cut it in half and let her have half of it and kept the rest for himself.
I mean,
That's how crazy things were.
I'm half Irish. I don't know from Yiddish, but I think the word chutzpah comes up at a time like that, right?
I'll take it.
Okay, that's some real chutzpah. Well, it's interesting then, because it's really fascinating to me, just being a student of history, to see how your parents actually, sort of, you might say, military age folks during World War II, Jewish for heaven's sakes, how did they survive the onslaughts of the Nazis? How did they survive? And correct me if I'm wrong, but your father was captured and then he was exiled to working in a boot factory for the Soviet Union or the Russians at that time, and that was actually his salvation. How did that work?
Here's what happened, Marty. If you remember your history, Stalin and Hitler in 1939 came up with a non-aggression pact. Basically, what that said was that if the Germans attacked Poland, the Soviets would not attack Germany, but would be able to keep the eastern third of Poland for themselves.
Right.
And my father was in Poland, a part of Poland that was in the eastern third. So when the Russians came in, they drafted him into the army. They drafted all the young men into the army.
Right.
And so suddenly, instead of being under Nazi occupation, he was in the Soviet army. And because they didn't quite trust the Poles they absorbed, they sent him to the back lines to work in military factories. He ended up making boots, but the whole system was so corrupt, the officers would bribe him to make them extra pairs of boots. And so he always had enough food during the war. Unlike my mother, who was almost starved several times and almost died of typhus.
But he would actually, like, if there was an order for a boot, he would make extra boots for these Russian officers, ingratiating himself, and a little bit of chutzpah on his part too, to make it through the war that way.
Well, they would pay him off in vodka. He wasn't a drinker, so he would take the vodka and trade it in for food.
Wow.
And so he always had enough food.
Well, from there, you said that your father, after he saw the ravishes of what the Nazis did, and your extended family, I mean, was it your father that had 6 daughters, or was it or 6 sisters? 6 sisters. They all perished in the war, in the concentration camp.
They all were killed by the Germans in their town. Either they were, he never quite knew exactly precisely what happened to them, but either they were shot in the forests buried in a mass grave, or they were sent off to Sobibor,
Wow.
which was an extermination camp.
But by a quirk of well, hopefully, forward thinking, they were spared going to the concentration camp. They were on the right side of the line. And then after the war, you're put in this displaced person camp, and your parents could not find anyone, any extended member of the family, and they were sort of faced with the choice: do I go to Israel and immigrate there, or do I somehow try to make it to the United States? And they chose the United States. And then a large portion of the book is talking about an immigrant family making their way in Manhattan and what that all entailed. I found it fascinating.
And the Bronx.
And the Bronx, yeah, Riverdale, but come on, Riverdale isn't really the Bronx.
The Great Concourse area.
Oh, okay, fine.
And my parents ended up late in their lives, in their elderly years, in Riverdale. But during their 40s and 50s, 30s and 40s and 50s, when my sister was still young, they lived in 167th Street near Yankee Stadium, in what's now the South Bronx.
But they talked about, I mean, at one point, I'm not an emotional guy, but I found myself tearing up. You tell the story about how this is maybe the first few weeks that you're here, and your father and your mother thought maybe that there was one uncle that lived in the Bronx. And
In Brooklyn, yes.
in Brooklyn. And he very tenuously took you by the hand, and he wrote out the names of the stops on the subway, and you took the subway over to this neighborhood because he remembered the address, because your uncle worked in a mattress factory, I think it was, and he would periodically send money home, so he remembered that address in the return envelope. And you made your way over there, hoping against hope that there was some blood relative that was still alive, that had survived the slaughter of the Nazis, and someone with whom you could have some sort of a familial bond to, and then pick it up from there, because it's you as a young child seeing your incredibly hardworking father. And tell us what happened next. I almost cried at that point.
It was what is today East New York, Brooklyn, and we took this long subway ride, and he took me out there, and he knocked on the door of the address, and the neighbors told him that he no longer lived there, but they said he had his wife had a sister. This is how distant it started to become. His wife had a sister who lived a couple of blocks away. So we went to the sister, and we discovered that my father's uncle, someone who had immigrated before the war, he had died. And I don't think I remember anymore what he had died of, but he had died, and so my father did not have a single relative here when he came.
Yeah, he had died, and then his...
However, those people, this sister-in-law, turned out to become very important for my family, because they showed us the ropes in America. They would come and visit us. Their names were the Lessons, and Mr. Lesson would come drive his I think Pontiac, as I remember, without power steering, because I always remember he was struggling to turn the wheel, and he would drive all the way to the Bronx to visit us, or to Manhattan to visit us when we were there. And they were very generous. They showed us. They were just very warm people, and that was a big deal for us, because we felt less alone in this country as a result.
Well, yeah, I mean, you go there, and again, while I was listening to this book, I just found myself getting hungrier and hungrier. It's almost like, if you're watching a movie about being out in the desert and you don't have any water, you get thirsty. But in the book, as a child, you're going with your father, and you talk about just seeing your father in distress. And your father, it seemed like he was always trying to keep more or less a stiff upper lip. He was a very stoic man. He had seen some things in the war that I can only imagine. But when he went there and he found out that his one living uncle that actually died 3 years earlier, the uncle's wife had moved down to Florida, but they said, but there's a sister-in-law, as you point out, and you say in the book how you went into this tenement, And it wasn't much of an apartment, but they had a kitchen table with some chairs, and they actually had a phonograph player. And to you, this was like Trump Towers at that point compared to what you were living in. Yeah, and they had, and then you said that the lady who, and you described her brilliantly in the book. You should get a Pulitzer Prize for this book, I'm telling you. But you talk about this, well-fed lady, and she said, "Oh, would you like a sandwich?" And of course, you were starving and you wanted it bad, but you wanted to keep your father's dignity. But she sort of forced it on you, and you were off to the races at that point.
Very good. You told that very well. Thank you, Marty.
It's funny because I was talking to you about this book, and by the time you got hit by the car, now you wrote the book, so you would know. But why don't you walk through that? Because then you're growing up and you're going to the yeshiva school, and you're getting to know some of the kids in the neighborhood, and you're forward-looking. You're looking ahead, and you've got America in front of you, and you got the Yankees, and you got stickball, and you got running the streets. Your parents have more of a refugee immigrant feeling where they're, as you say, at every turn, they're a little bit backward looking, a little bit backward acting, and then you have to kind of negotiate that as you grow up and kind of embrace the new world.
Yeah, that's very well put. And to me, as I remember, I wanted to be American. I didn't want to know about their old world. I wanted to be as American as everybody else. But, our parents they didn't know about baseball. They didn't know about pizza. They didn't know about French fries. They came from a world with different foods and different sports and different ways of thinking and being. And so, there was always a certain sense of unease about our parents because they weren't quite the match of the Americans we knew. But as we grew up and we began to realize how courageous they had been, how sturdy they had been in weathering this kind of experience of immigrating to a new country without any money, without any relatives. But when we get children, you just want to, be like all the other children, and so that was a factor that I talk about in the book.
Yeah, and you talk about like at the school, there were a couple of examples that I thought were great. One was at some point you had to bring in the special meal. It was like the yeshiva, the Friday afternoon meal, the Seder. I was raised Catholic, so I'm not using the right terminology, but basically.
There's a Sabbath. We used to have a mock Sabbath on Friday afternoons.
Okay, so
they were teaching us about the Sabbath, how you celebrate the Sabbath.
Right, and so you would be assigned, each kid in the class would be assigned to have their mother come in and bring in the special bread and the special grape juice and so forth. And your mother was sort of negotiating this, and you knew you were on a very slim budget, and there was only so much.
Just the same budget. My mother was working in the garment center. She was making hats. While most of the other mothers were stay-at-home moms, she had to work to help support us.
Yeah.
To help pay the rent and put food on the table. So I was worried she wasn't going to be coming in, but she showed up.
Yeah, and she bought all the stuff, and she said, "I'm not sure I'm coming in or not."
And she was a big hit.
And she was gorgeous.
What?
She was gorgeous. The kids in the class said, "Wow, that's your mother? She's really pretty." And she stole the show. Okay, and then tell the one story too, if you would, about you wanted to watch, it was like the Jackie Gleason show or the comedy show, and you didn't have a TV, but you could go over to the Coopermans and they had a TV, but this one night they weren't there, so you're out on the curb and get, throw a bone to the Irish, because they play an important part in this story.
Well, the neighborhood we moved in, 102nd of Columbus, was a kind of a mixed neighborhood of Irish, some refugee Jews. It was a poor neighborhood, working class and poor people. Everybody had a job, but you didn't, the rents were like $35 a month,
Yeah.
In Manhattan, mind you, right? So, I had a friend who was the first kid on the block among the refugee crowd to have a television set, and one night they were showing this show that I used to watch at his house, and he wasn't there. And I got angry at my father for, why don't we have a television set like Saul Koopman does? You know, by the way, Saul Koopman ended up in Greenwich, Connecticut, just for your Connecticut audience.
See, there you go.
Yeah, and and my father took me to the Irish bar across the street, and he ordered 2 beers. I sat on one stool, he sat on another, and we watched the Colgate Comedy Hour with, it was Bob Hope.
In the Irish bar.
Yeah, and that's what my father did for me. He knew we couldn't afford a TV set yet, but he made sure that I wasn't disappointed.
Well,
That's what a great father he was.
your relationship with your father was so unique too, as it comes out in the book, because he was just a hard-working, stoic guy from, you know, a more rural setting. And he came over here, and in that case, you said you were sitting on the curb, and all of a sudden you felt this strong arm come underneath you and pick you up, and you weren't sure what it was, and it was your father, and he walked you across the street to the Irish bar. You had a beer with a fat Irishman with a white apron, and you got to watch the comedy show. Is America a melting pot or what?
It is.
And it brings it all together. Well, let me just, if you could, I mean, if you can extrapolate a little bit and just give us from 60,000 feet, because, you know, oddly enough, and this is quite a leap, and I'm sure you're a principled, cultured man, so you don't listen to Howard Stern. But if you did, in the privacy of your own car, you know, I found that Howard Stern, who came from similar family, oddly enough, I'm not comparing the two because you're a very, you know, sophisticated, erudite writer for the New York Times. But it's interesting to hear him and his sense of humor come from his parents, his dad actually fought in the war, but his mother talks about their Jewish relatives in the old country and how they all died. And there's almost this sort of gallows humor, this survivor, it's sort of a mixture of guilt, but also a kind of a joy and a laughter that you said you saw in your parents.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, you know, the survivors are always depicted in the movies as morose and sad, and of course they were that way at times. How could they not be?
Sure.
But you know, I remember my folks when they would get together with their friends. I remember a lot of laughter. They would laugh at how poor their homes were. They would laugh at how infrequently they ate an egg during a year, once a year maybe. You know.
Yeah.